Okay, we are going to start with getting our starter ready. Here we go. I'm going to measure to see what I have in there, which is about 50 grams or so. So I'm going to add what I need to feed my starter to get it going. So grab my water. I'm going to add about 100 grams of water. And of course, it's a 1-to-1 feeding ratio. Well, maybe not because I have 50 grams, so whatever that math is. Needless to say, it's 100 grams of water that's going in there. Takes me a second to get there because I'm kind of slow a lot of times, but it's all good. And one last bit. Okay, there we go. Now it's time for the flour. And I'm going to add 100 grams of flour through there. Shake it, shake it, shake it. A little bit more. There we go. And then a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Okay, there we go. Now we have the equal parts there. Take it off the scale. Because it's per my husband. Never stir stuff on the scale. It will mess up the scale. But here we go. Stir her up. Get her going. Got it scraped down the sides while I'm doing it. Get it nice and stirred and good. So that's what starter does. And then scrape down the sides again. Nice and good. And incorporate all of it. Make sure there's no little clumps left in it. Also, gotta make sure you go pull it from the bottom, but scraping down the sides because that's where the good starter is. Get it stirred real good. That's pretty much the life of starter. Add, stir, add, stir. That is what we do. Scrape off the sides. Get down there. And then now wipe off the spatula because don't want to put too much of this down the drain. Try and wipe it off while you can. And then from there, go ahead and mark and measure the starter. The goal is we are wanting the starter to at least double from the starting point and everything. So I use a dry erase marker. See, this way I know it's a glass container, so the dry erase marker works really well. So I'll go over there, I'll mark the starting point, and then just go old school, measure with my fingers, move up to show where the double line is. And there we go. Cap the little lid, little linen cover, and let Devlin go do her Devlin. So double has doubled. Well, Devlin has doubled. So now we're going to make some fluffy sourdough sandwich bread. We are going to start off with 200 grams of starter. Get that into there. Sometimes I'm a little over under. It is fine. As long as you get it within like 2 or 3 grams, it's fine. Today, we happen to be working with 203 grams. It is fine. It is fine. That's the whole thing about sourdough. Very forgiving. Not a problem. So I've got all that into there. And my next step is to add 600 grams of warm water. So I went ahead beforehand. Oh, let's not forget, let's tether out the scale. Make sure it's down to 0 again. That way we can add everything right in the same bowl. So I'm going to add the warm water that I have went ahead and did microwave it. I took a filtered water because I have filtered water in my sink. And then add 600 grams to the scale. Once we get to that moment, we will technically, you add the honey, but I forgot. I was in a rush. Not so much rush. I was a little nervous because I was filming, but it's all okay. But you will then now take it, remove the scale, because once again, you don't want to do items on the scale because that will mess up the balancing. So I'm going to take with my Danish whisk, and I am just going to try and incorporate this into the water to make the water very milky colored. You don't have to disintegrate or dissolve all of the starter. Just get it very milky. This is the moment when I realized that I forgot the honey. So my bad. So now we're going to go on it. And luckily, I'm doing a voiceover, so you don't have to hear all of the horrible squirts that came out of the very end of this. At this point, you are going to add 86 grams of honey. And at this point, I can mention I got this recipe from Sourdough Sparrow on Instagram, and it has been amazing. So, to give out points, this is not my recipe, this is her recipe. But we have been making this bread on the regular here ever since getting the recipe. So essentially, now got a new container of honey, and that it to finish up the 86 grams. Then we are going to move this off the scale after I get the rest of this honey in. And we're just going to swirl it up with the Danish whisk again. Get that all nice and incorporated. It will look a little brown, but that is okay because that's honey versus a milky white. That is how we are doing the sourdough today because it's fluffy sandwich bread. So, okay, and now it is time for the flour. For this recipe, it calls for 1,050 grams of bread flour. I prefer King Arthur's. Haven't found the best flour. That's what I'm going with. So we're going to put that on in there. And then, of course, once we have that in, we are going to tether the scale again because that is how we're going to measure. And then we are going to put 40 grams of olive oil in. So when it gets a little interesting because, olive oil and water do not mix. And it becomes even more interesting when it becomes flour. Let me tell you, once it all bakes out, it all works out. It's all good. So once you get the 40 grams in, once again, you're going to pull the bowl off the scale. And you're going to take that Danish whisk and you're going to start whisking. Me personally, I pull in from the sides to start with, trying to incorporate into the center. Essentially, what you're just trying to do is incorporate all the ingredients. It will take a moment or two. Some people prefer to just get their hands in it and do it, which is fine. I use the whisk. The whisk has been working well for me. If I do go in with the hands, though, I typically put some gloves on because it gets very doughy. Once again, just pull from the sides and get in. You want to just keep an eye on the consistency of the dough. Like I said, you're just trying to get everything wet. You're just trying to incorporate all of it. Scrape down from the sides to make sure, especially when the dough starts, get a whole lot more liquid on the sides. So it's a whole lot easier to scrape it from the sides. I rotate the bowl a lot. I am building a lot of possible upper arm muscles, maybe. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But as we keep rotating it, just want to try and make sure to incorporate all of it. It's just kind of all wet a bit. This run, we are going to incorporate the last ingredient, which is the pink Himalayan salt. So um, that will be 24 grams of salt that you put in. So once it's nice and wet and incorporated, so we're getting there. I'm kind of babbling right now because I don't want to not be talking, but it's okay. So now we are going to put it back on the scale, tether it out so it's down to zero. Take the pink Himalayan salt. There's 24 grams of salt that is going in, sprinkled about so you don't have a big dense stack somewhere. Just kind of sprinkle all evenly. Once you have all that, remove it from the scale. And then you will just fold it over again to incorporate that as much as it is. You're not trying to dissolve all the salt right at this moment. It is just kind of sitting in there in the dough, which is not a problem. From there, just kind of do like I'm doing. Or if you want to get in it, go ahead and put your hands in it. Knead it all up. It is fine. There's not any wrong way. And as they say, at this process, you cannot overmix sourdough, which is fine. Actually, I found sourdough is very forgiving, so it's all good. So incorporating the salt in, and as you can see, now I am trying to get the parts of dough just a little bit right off the Danish twist. Little trick my husband taught me: just lap that dough, a little track to it. That gets the rest of it off the whisk, except for that little pesky part. Oh gosh, I'll get that off. Not a problem. And there we go. We have it all in there and ready to start sitting. That's what we do. So next, you will want to get a towel or some type of covering of it. I personally am using, oh, well, here, we can see it's kind of shaggy. We call it shaggy. It looks a little clumpy still. It's not all smooth, and it's fine. Now at this point, I'm grabbing a dish towel, which typically is called a tea towel. This happens to be one that my grandmother embroidered for me. A little sentimental. Has worked out very well in my sourdough journeys. But I am just dampening it under the sink. You could use a plastic wrap. You could use a lot of variety of things. This is just kind of what's worked for me. Everything. And now we're just going to place it over the bowl. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just trying to show off that. Now we're going to set a timer for 30 minutes. So the next part is what we call stretch and fold. Now it's been 30 minutes. I'm removing the towel. You can see the dough still looks very, very shiny. I'm going to wet my hand. This is going to help keeping dough too much on it. And then I am going to stretch and fold. And once again, see up, stretch and fold. Essentially, stretch and fold is what starts building the gluten process in the bread. So it's very simple. As it says, stretch and fold, you will pull from one side. As you can see, my dough is starting to come together really, really good as it comes out of the bowl. But I still just pull, stretch and fold, and over. And that is the whole goal of stretch and folds. To stretch like that and fold. Stretch and fold. And essentially, like I said, just building the gluten process. As you can see, the dough is looking less shaggy. It's starting to get a little smooth and shiny. Go ahead and cover it. And then you go to the sink and try and wash all the dough that's out under your fingernails, because that can be annoying if you have fingernails. But that is dough life. That is what happens. It's all good. It's fine. Then once again, you set the timer for 30 minutes. And now we're back. After 30 minutes, we are on our second set of stretch and folds. As you can see, the dough is starting to come together a whole lot more. Wet your hands, otherwise you're going to get a lot of dough on your hands. Stretch, fold. Stretch, fold. Then you are going to stretch and fold. Stretch and fold. Stretch and fold. Stretch and fold. Technically, you just like kind of turn the bowl 4 times every 90 degrees and everything is what you do for a stretch and fold. After that is done, once again, just cover it back up and set the timer for 30 minutes. And I'm going to tell you, 35 minutes if you get back to it is fine. Sourdough is very, very forgiving. Do not have to set everything around it. Kind of have to set some, but not all of it. Okay, now we're back for the third set of stretch and fold. Still wet the hand, and then once again, stretch and fold. Stretch and fold. And as you can see, the dough, it's very much picking up from there, and this is because it's all incorporating. It's very, very moist. So now I'm picking up the whole dough and kind of like slinging it to stretch and fold. I do not know if this is preferred technique. I am not a professional. Probably should have said that from the start. But anyway, this is what I do at home when I'm making bread. Cover it back up, and we are going to set that timer for another 30 minutes. And set it to the side. And then once again, rinse the little bit of dough that's getting up in there. Fingernails are not recommended in this operation because that dough will get up under there. Okay, now we're coming back for the fourth one. Oh, look, here's our chicken that we're having for dinner tonight. Didn't know that came out. Let's move that out of the side. Oops. Okay, now we're going to come back and we are going to do the fourth and final stretch and fold. Wet the hand a bit, even though the dough is really not needing this a whole lot, but that's okay. Look how shiny she is. She's got some little bubbles up in there too. She's fermenting. So now we're going to pull and we're going to stretch and fold. Stretch and then fold. Once again, this whole process is to build the gluten in the bread, which is weird because you thought gluten was bad, but it's two different things here. But anyway, we're going to keep stretching and folding her. She is getting close to being ready. So now at this point, I don't know if this is needed, but I kind of like fold her over. I like to tuck her in a little bit. It's okay. So now we are about to wait out for the rest of the bulk fermentation. So now we have her in. We see some little bubbles in there. I'm going to try a little window pane, and it is tearing right away. She's nowhere near done bulk fermentation, which is no surprise. I'm going to put the towel on her, move her right on back. And then we are going to go get the chicken back on the counter. So my husband has no idea that I was working on that. But that's what's for dinner, y'all. Okay, so now we have let it bulk ferment. I can tell this because it has doubled in size. It is domed up and it is releasing from the side of the bowls. Sometimes I get lazy. I just take a scraper to get it out. Today, to be authentic, or whatever that is, I'm gonna let it naturally release from the bowl. So as you can see, I'm kind of tipping the bowl, shaking it, jiggling it. That's the other side that it's bulk fermented. It gets very jiggly, like jello jiggly and everything. So we are almost there. It is working through. And as you can see, it's escaping through the sides of the bowl. And look, ooh, she drops. There we go. Okay, throw the bowl to the side, and then I am going to take this little sharp scraper thingy. I forgot the name of it, but I like it. Usually I would weigh my two parts, but I'm being lazy today. It's fine. It's all good. But I will admit, I do suggest weighing it because dough, you might look at it visually and it's a little deceiving. But I did pretty good today on equaling this out. So we have it in two parts because this recipe makes two loaves. Now I'm going to pull out the dough, stretch it a bit. This is what I believe they say it's called laminating. And this is where I'm stretching the dough out as much as possible on the counter to so that I can roll it in. I do this with the sandwich bread. My regular sourdough, I do not. Um, Once again, just pulling out, trying to get as level as possible because this is what works for sandwich bread. I don't know if this was in the original instruction. It's kind of what I've just adapted to. It's fine. I've seen some people roll it, but now I'm going to fold it over again, fold it over. Now I am going to roll it, and I'm going to roll it tight. It's essentially, it's kind of what I'm trying to do with sandwich bread is I just spread it out as thin as possible, roll it up as tight. I'm going to squinch those ends. Probably can't hear it. Right there is like bubbles popping because that's the whole process. And then I am going to put it into my sandwich loaf pan that I did spray with some butter spray. And not to mention, you are going to put this seam down. That is different from typical stuff. Once again, on the second loaf, I am laminating it, getting it all spread out nice and good. Just trying to level it out as much as possible. And then from here, just continue to pull edges. It's kind of how the lamination thing goes. I've seen other people laminate it very, very thin. I am not that skilled. It is okay. Once again, as I said, sourdough is very forgiving. So now that I've got it nice and folded, well, laminate, I'm going to fold over, fold over, fold over. And once again, we are going to roll, roll it nice and roll tight. I am not trying to like do pre-shape or get tension or anything. I am just trying to roll this sucker in, squeeze those ends in right there. Squeeze them again. I want to flip it over so you can see a little bit. Flip, squeeze, squeeze. Just trying to squeeze those ends in. Some of the top of this is tearing a little bit, so hence why I said tension fold, not what I'm trying to do. Pop it in. And that's what I do on that one to get in. Now that we have put the bread in the loaves, we need to let it rise for a couple hours. So I am throwing it in the oven right here. No temperature on an oven. So I'm going to go ahead and cover it with a damn towel, keep the moisture in there. And I don't know if that's what's recommended, but that's what I do. So we're going to put that on there. And I'm also going to put the light on in the oven. That's going to give it a little bit of warmth. And we're going to let it rise for 2 hours. Boom, fast forward 2 hours. So now it is time to pull these bad boys out so we can preheat the oven. And as we can say, they've been rising. Look at them. They are quite more billowy than they were before. So we're going to go ahead and preheat the oven at 375. Personally, my oven, it goes up to 385 because that's what my oven is. I know your temps. Okay, now that we have preheated, we are going to go ahead and start baking these bad boys. This is when you're in trouble because the house is going to smell really, really, really good, but it's all fine. So, Oh, actually, okay, I baked it. My bad. Wrong clip. Anyway, so we have baked these suckers. Oh my goodness, look at them. They have risen so much. They are so golden brown. They are gorgeous. Now I am going to turn everything off. We're just gonna let that sit there for about 5 minutes or so. You could do this right out of the oven, but this is what I do. I just let it sit for about 5 minutes and then I come back with a stick of butter, unsalted butter, and just brush the tops. I just like go in with it. No need to melt it and brush it. I just take that stick and go right on there. It melts right on there. It's gorgeous. As you can see, I'm pulling back the paper to make sure the paper's not picking up more of it. But we're just gonna brush all the edges of it. This is where we take that golden brown and make it a shiny gold brown. It is gorgeous. I warn you, your house will smell delicious at this point, but that's what it is. Just like stoke it all up in there, get it on there. It will melt naturally. It's fine. Then you just cover up the rest of that stick, throw it back on the fridge. That is what I actually call the sandwich stick. Now, you want to pop these bad boys out of the loaf pans to let them cool properly. As you have to remember, sometimes with bread, it's still cooking a bit. It is fine. But racks are your best friend when it comes to bread. So here we go. Loaf one out. Shiny, gorgeous, because she's covered in butter. And then we're going to move the crumpets out of the way because that's what it on the side project. And then that loaf. This is how we have made two fluffy sandwich dough loaves. They're gorgeous.